yeah, welcome to the last one. This is about socially trading organizations. I'm sure that one of the questions is going to be, what's a socially trading organization? But I'll let Erica and Sally Ann define that in their introductions. So welcome, and we were joined by Sally Ann, Erica, Rushton, and Leomar. And we're going to start by doing sort of 5 minutes or so each where you guys introduce yourselves to the audience, but then also just talk around the subject title. So the response of socially trading organizations to this situation. Please try to include the reality of the challenges that they're facing, and also some good news stories if you can, and then try also to include tangible actions and advice and all that sort of stuff along the way. Big caveat, nobody really knows answers at this point. We're all just muddling through this together, and we'll chip in some stuff from previous talks as well throughout it. So for everybody who's in the attendees list, you can ask questions in the Q&A section and they'll get flagged, and then we'll turn to that after everyone's done their little introductions, and we'll look to there for sort of what we're going to talk about next and try and answer some of those questions. Okay, so let's start with Sally Ann, if that's okay.
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Sally Ann Watkiss. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an accountant by training. I spent 25 years working for Royal Sun Alliance, running their financial aid service centres, and since I retired in inverted commas in 2013, I've largely been working within the social economy, helping businesses understand their finances, understand their numbers, understand their business models, that sort of thing. I'm the treasurer of Home Baked. I'm a board member at Blackburn House. I'm a director of Avella Services, which is the commercial arm of South Liverpool Homes and is a partnership with Penny Lane Builders. I'm on the board of the Blue Coat, and I'm chair of their trading company. And I'm also a school governor for a couple of special schools in Birkenhead. So I'm seeing a broad spectrum of how this is impacting, both from my old corporate experience and with how things are happening now across the sector. Because of my background, I've been working on cash flow as a matter of course with every organisation I'm working with, and have spent the last 3 or 4 weeks building cash flow models, making sure that organisations are getting their money in, understanding who they owe money to, understanding when and how they can pay. And it's been an interesting challenge. One of the very earliest learnings from this has been that smaller organisations are much nimbler, much better, much more supportive at paying their customers than large organisations. So I literally had a whole day last week trying to navigate myself through getting universities, housing associations and the BBC to pay overdue invoices. And the reaction of some of those anchor institutions has been appalling. Their AP units should just be getting money out the door. The amount of fraud there's going to be is negligible. Just get the money out and through. And on a positive perspective, Home Baked's been given a grant by the Steve Morgan Foundation. I applied on the Saturday. I heard on the Tuesday. The first instalment was in their bank account on a Wednesday. So they've proven that actually all this malarkey that funders have given us and told us about in the past, that you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do the other, actually you can do it, and you can do it quickly. So that's a little nugget of good news that I'm taking forward, that every bloody funder in the country can do this now going forward. no excuses, get your money out, understand your beneficiaries afterwards. The government stuff has been an interesting challenge as well, because I'm firmly of the view that the furloughing and everything else is purely for the benefit of big organisations, because navigating it as a small organisation has been really, really challenging. So we've had good support from our HR partners, and we've had good support from some of the bigger organisations that I'm networked with. So South Liverpool Homes have helped Home Baked Out. The Blue Coat have helped Home Baked Out. So, but if you're by yourself and you're not used to this sort of thing, understanding all the logistics about furloughing and not furloughing and what rules and regulations apply are going to be really, really difficult. And I think people are just going to give up and say it's too hard. So our informal networks come into their fore during these sort of things. Excuse me, I've just got to go because I'm getting a delivery from Laura's Little Bakery of cakes for my husband tonight. I'll be back in seconds.
Amazing. Okay, well, Lee, do you want to take over from Sally?
I'll try and follow. Thanks, Sally. So yeah, my name's Lee Omar. I'm the CEO of Red Ninja, which is a tech for good company. So we create digital products, but it's all kind of good for society type products that we create. An example is Safe Steps, which is noted here, and that's an app for to prevent older people from falling. It's mainly used in care homes, and the customers the NHS. And we've gone through a lot of challenges with that customer in the last few weeks, which I'll talk about later on. But from an introduction point of view, yeah. So I make tech for good. I'm also a non-exec director of a care home group. So I'm responsible for 450 older people, most of them living with dementia, who are living in our homes, and that's in Stockport and Greater Manchester. So I had to get on a lot of this COVID stuff about a month ago. Once I saw people dying in a care home in Washington State in the US, so I knew that was when it kind of personally impacted me. The scale that really was. So people who I know, there's a good chance that they might not get through it. So that made me get up to date with the science and the kind of the way it was spreading. I'm also a innovation fellow for the NHS, so I work a lot around healthcare. But yeah, kind of tech, and it's all kind of social and health type tech. And I'm based in Liverpool, but I'm taking this Zoom from New York. So I'm currently in Manhattan, which is it's been on lockdown here for 3 weeks. So I kind of feel a bit ahead of maybe people back home, because we've had it a bit longer here, and New York's now the kind of epicenter. That's what I'm hearing, but it's not too bad. It seems pretty good. I'll hand back to Sally. I think she's got her cakes.
Yeah. So a classic example of how the small independents and social enterprises are forging a new economy out of this, and how they've adapted. So my husband's an NHS worker. We're trying to avoid supermarkets because he has been in contact with the virus, and we don't want to spread it around. So we're using all the local delivery services from various people to drop things off. And it is one of the good news stories that has come out of this is how the economy's building itself in a slightly different way. And I'm really hoping that the economy we come out of this with is very different to the economy we went into it with. And I'm seeing socially traded organisations becoming so important because they're true to their values. They understand their customers. They understand people who they understand the needs of their communities and have been able to react. But with that comes a lot of strain. All of us work on very, very tight margins, and cash flow is really, 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 really scary. And that's one of the reasons why Steve Morgan have really helped, because they've given us a grant to give stuff away. They've enabled us to keep our commercial business up and running. So they've enabled us to keep people unfurloughed and run our commercial business, which we don't want to go away, and support our vulnerable customers at the same time. And I'm seeing lots of good news, little shoots happening across the city. And Fiona Shaw put a call out this morning for where people were doing stuff differently, and there were examples all over the place. So there's sewing rooms in Skelmersdale make curtains with isolated women for IKEA. They've just been gifted some COVID-resistant fabric. They've just turned, they're making face masks now for key workers and essential workers. They've turned that round in less than a week. Home Bake's got baking more bread than it's ever made to send out. Kitty's is hoping to be doing a laundry service for key workers, so that key workers don't have to worry about their washing. They can drop it off at Kitty's in a safe space, have it done, washed, not having to use loads of money on their tumble dryer, etc. The social economy is responding to where the need is, and it's doing it in a commercial way rather than commercial's probably the wrong word, but it's doing it in a trading way as well as a non-trading way. So I'm naturally Pollyanna, but I've got a real positive view that if we can get through this and we can find a way to manage the cash flow and manage the people and keep our organisations up and running, we come out stronger at the end of it as a socially traded economy in the city. And actually we can help make this economy better.
That's really great. Thanks, Sally. Lots of really good examples. And if you could tell us how to reply to Fiona's call out, that would be really, really great. Erica, can you go next?
Yeah. So you've just asked me to talk about some of the good things and bad things.
And introduce yourself.
Oh, and introduce myself, of course. Who am I? So my name's Erica Rushton, and I've been knocking around what we might call social economy for maybe too long. Working for myself and running my own little business for 5 years, but probably knocking around that economy for 30. Just at the moment, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later, some work that I've been doing alongside colleagues, including Liam, Sally Ann, but many others as well, with the city region, has been brought forward. Some of you might have heard we're trying to set up a fund to invest in what we're calling socially trading organisations, and that was in principle announced by Mayor Steve Rotheram before Christmas in 2019, for a sort of formal launch and to go live in the summer. But in terms of one of the good things I've seen, it echoes what Sally Ann said. A small amount of that money for not the financial support, but the kind of support to find out what's going on has been brought forward. And we got a proposal in and approval out in 2 days flat out of local city region. I don't think I've ever seen anything move so fast with a big funder in my life. So I echo Sally's good news on that. It can be done when the will is there. But big thanks to the Mayor and the team for that. So what have I seen that's good and what have I seen that's bad? So 3 examples of things that I've really liked is perhaps Tim Tierney at the Florrie taking his guitar classes where 70 people sing and play guitar together online, and anyone can now join in with that. So a little shout out for that one. Watching Peloton, the kind of online bike menders and deliverers, speed into action to kind of hire out bikes and get deliveries around the city in a safe way and connect up with other people who are supplying things. Brilliant. Looks like they're expanding. They're also mending bikes and making sure that people can get out and do exercise on bikes. And yesterday my boiler broke, and I rang up everybody I usually ring up, and nobody was open for business. And so a friend of a friend on the street put me in touch with another friend, and a guy came round and was really respectful about social distancing. I should give him a shout. Stephen Kelly, Gas, Heating and Plumbing. A guy who all his big contracts had fallen off a cliff and nobody wanted to honour them or keep that money flowing. And actually he came around and fixed it, and there was no rip-off rates, there was real respectfulness, and he's now got some other work because I've recommended him. What are the bad things I've seen? Well, other people have talked about Richard Branson, but he was first through the door to ask for a bailout and not make an offer. And I have a bit of a thing about asks and offers. You know, at least if you're asking, make an offer at the same time. Bright House went bust yesterday morning. That was a bit of good news, but the receivers moved in, and I would prefer to see the suggestion made on Twitter that investment book goes to the credit union network, because I think maybe they will do something a little bit more kinder and imaginative with it. And even some of the big charities and funders, their response has been to either throw out or collect up big bags of money. And I suppose what I think all this is telling me is something I learned off a guy in Birmingham who had worked in the NHS, but came from a very, very poor country originally, and his family still lived there. And actually, if we take money out of this, the problems are really solvable, and the stress massively reduces. And it is the flow of money at the moment that I think is causing real anxiety. And I haven't got an immediate solution to that, but I really like that the government has learnt the lessons of 2008 and 10. And it's not, at least not exclusively, only pouring in money at the top of the system that will never reach the bottom. It is attempting to put money in at the bottom of the system so that we can keep spending and trading with each other. And I suppose that's our challenge now, is how do we enable people to trade with the kind of business for good, never mind tech for good, Lee, but the business for good, because the choices we make now as customers and small businesses and who we go to could begin to provide a footprint for the future.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great, Erica. Thanks very much. And I think that you're right. I think the worry is that, I'm sure the government's worry is that if you pour money directly into the hands of people and businesses, that in a moment of crisis, they don't spend it. That's the thing. That's always the argument that comes against universal basic income and against direct intervention. Go on. And I'm saying that as devil's advocate. I think everybody knows my views on those things. But yeah, go on, Erica.
Yeah, but at least we'll let you know. When we poured the money into the banks, they kept it.
Oh, and worse, they monetized it.
Yeah.
They made huge amounts of money from it.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what I want to just take a moment to acknowledge, is that lots of times we keep doing things even when we know they're wrong, and there is an attempt to do something different here, which is not, and yes, Alison McGovern spoke really well earlier about all the holes when you're trying to do something at speed and scale. And of course there will be holes. But again, I and Sally have talked about this before. Actually, the risk of giving out thousands and thousands and thousands of small amounts is that a few of those will go wrong, or be corrupt, or be spent in the wrong way, or hoarded in somebody's bank account. But actually that is a lower risk. It's a distributed risk than giving out a few big chunks, because it only takes one or two of those to go wrong and the whole thing is stalled, really. And I think that's what we've seen over the last 10 years, is actually it's not been a stalling, but it has been a stalling of a world that was moving into a greater equality, and particularly a country that was moving into a greater equality. Actually, that's reversed over the last 10 years. So is this an opportunity to take a breath and say, yes, awful things are going to happen over the next 2, 3, 5 months, and they're going to be really painful. But let's ensure that the decisions we make during this period are the very best decisions we can make, the very kindest decisions we can make, the kind of things Paul was saying at the end of your last chat.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Just a reminder to all the attendees that you can ask questions in the Q&A tab. It would be really great to see some of your thoughts, comments and questions in there, so that we can pick them up after we finish the rounds of the panel. So get those questions in now, so that we've got something to look at when we're done. Lee, do you have anything else that you want to come in on at this point?
Yeah, I think challenges for me. So, besides being in tech, I'm a founder and chairperson of a non-profit arts kind of psychotherapy project based in Toxteth Town Hall, and that service is very much about people being able to drop into a space. It's as much about the space as the people and the kind of one-to-one service they get. And it's like, how do you recreate that? We can move this Zoom. This is great for something like this, but when the people that you're serving are people who've got post-traumatic stress disorder, they've got some very complex needs, and just them coming out of the house and visiting a space is that's a massive growth journey for them. And to move all services online, it's just, we can't do it. We've got to deliver a stripped down service, but we've got to accept it. It's not going to be as good as it was if we were in a space. So I think you've got like operational challenges like that at Borough Care, where we're caring for the ageing society. You've got to make tough decisions. When do you stop family coming to see someone? And I wanted to do that about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it wasn't a popular decision at the time. People were saying, I want to see my mum. This is not fair. Kind of the media weren't behind things like lockdown back then, and you're going to have to make difficult decisions as a leader of a social business, and you're not going to get them right all the time, but you just need to make the decisions and kind of go with what your gut instinct was. I was right on that one, but I could have been wrong. There's somebody died from coronavirus in one of our properties. Could that person have been saved if we'd have done it earlier? It's very difficult to know. So you got the kind of operational challenges like that. Some positives that have come out of things like lockdown and the slowdown in the economy is both of those charities. We've always struggled to get volunteers. It's no secret that social care, you can't get people to work in it or volunteer in it. We've had more applications for people wanting to volunteer, and it's mainly because they come from people who worked in retail or hospitality, tourism, people with great customer service skills, people's people, and they want to help out. And okay, they might not have the experience around care or around health and well-being, but they're good people, and we're trying to onboard as many of these people to be volunteers as quickly as possible. So that's kind of something that we've always struggled with, getting good quality volunteers, but we're now having conversations with more than we've ever had. So there's operational challenges and opportunities, and the other big one is cash flow. Safe Steps, the organisation which we exist to prevent falls in our aging society, and we've been working on 2 big contracts with big NHS providers, kind of at a regional level in both Greater Manchester and Cheshire and Mersey. Kind of 6 months work to get to the signing off period. took on 3 new staff last month to kind of hit the ground running with a new contract, and they paused the contracts last week. So we're in a position: do we furlough all these new staff because they can't do that job? And these were the very real conversations we were having at a board level last week. The call I made was to try and sort of pivot the company, really, pivot the organisation. We exist to prevent falls in the aging society, to keep them out of hospital. But could we, use the same technology or the same media channels and the same staff to keep people out of hospital by keeping them safe from COVID-19? And we can, we on the Wednesday, after kind of a call with our managing director, we said, let's just get all the team focused tomorrow to think, how can we respond to COVID-19 and be part of the solution? Because the people who give us money, or the people we get contracts off, is NHS and kind of adult social care commissioners, and they don't want to speak to us about what we normally do because they're under crisis and they're overwhelmed anyway. So the best way to have conversations with them is think, what can we give them? I heard Erica say, you shouldn't ask for things, you should offer things. So I kind of thought, if the ship's going to go down anyway, we might as well give it our best shot and try and get as much value out of our team while we've got them, and let's just see what we can do. So the managing director took the call, and the next day he said the whole team's going to get together on Zoom and we're going to have a hackathon or an innovation day. It's just a kind of trendy way of having a brainstorming and kind of prototyping and getting some ideas down and trying to create a new product or service. By the end of the day, they had some kind of mock-ups and an idea for how we could pivot our products from just preventing falls into helping reduce the spread of COVID-19 in care homes. The next day, we pitched it to people in the NHS, and they were a lot more receptive, and they wanted to speak to us, and we were kind of co-designing it for a couple of days last week. And this is unprecedented for us. They kind of gave us the green light on the Friday, said, yeah, we want to do this, and we'll commit some resource. We were just up front, so we said, look, if you give us some money, we can keep these people on to do X, Y, Z, create a COVID tracker to help keep them out of hospital. And they said, yeah, we'll do it. So we were still chasing them, because what it's like. You haven't got the money until it's either in your bank or if you get a PO number. That's what I see as we've got a deal, because there was no contract or anything. And we were pushing them on the Sunday, our contact in the NHS. I was saying, can we do this? We might have to furlough people in the next week or two. Just give me an indication of what's happening. And she said, yeah, we'll get you a PO number. I can do that now. And, can you start next week? So I've never known the NHS to say something like that on a Sunday. And times are changing. This time last week, we weren't a COVID-19 company, but we've kind of pivoted into it, and we'll see where it goes. We're right in the middle, but people want to have conversations with us more now, because we're being seen as we're part of the solution. We're not just bothering our partners.
Yeah, no, that's really excellently. Sally Ann smiled when you said, the money's not there until it's in your bank account, because she's got, I can't remember the exact words that you say, but something about life, approach it like a plumber does. Don't do any of the work. Go on, tell us what it is.
So think like a plumber. A plumber won't do the business until he knows he's gonna get paid, and he will only do it when he knows he's going to get paid, and he'll expect to be paid quickly. Having spent 20 odd years of my life running accounts payable units, I know how they work. I know how easy it is to make them work better. just by a few tweaks. But organisations, big organisations, don't have to worry about cash. They've got plenty of cash, so they don't think like a small business where cash is king.
Yeah, Erica, you raised your hand?
Yeah, I mean, so it's just making me think, listening to both Lee and Sally Ann, really, that you know, we have become a very indebted society. You know, so we all have debt and we function on debt. But that ask offer thing, I haven't got a model on this yet. But wouldn't it be nice if we could credit some people? So we did a thing over the last 2-3 years where people got money, but were able to repay that money in their social returns. And it seemed like a good idea at the time, and we didn't realise it was particularly innovative at the time. But the social offers and the social contributions that people are making at the moment are phenomenal. And I always think encourage the behaviour you want rather than hit people on the head for what you don't want them to do. And if there was a way of crediting people with what they're contributing at the moment. Now, I take your point, Sally, that somewhere the money has to flow through the system, but the money hasn't gone away. You know, some people have got the money and some people haven't got the money. And money is the thing we use to make the system work, which is why I think that idea of, well, if we take the money out of it for a moment, it all gets really easy, doesn't it? Because there's people who are offering things that are needed. There's people who are offering their time, but they don't know what's needed. I was on a call with the Combined Authority this morning who's offered to flag up the things we're short of, because at the moment we're all obsessed with food because we kind of want to feed everybody and look after everybody, but there's only so much food we can all eat. But what are the other things we need? And it's almost if we can forget the money a bit. So it's not a solution, but wouldn't it be nice to move into a society where our social contributions act as a credit, and at some point, maybe like the old co-op divvy system, our debits and credits can be balanced up once a month or something.
Yeah, that's a really, I think it's more tangible and more developed actually than perhaps that your thoughts indicate. You know, I'm happy to share that, you know, we had a £10,000 loan remaining with Beautiful Ideas, and I knew, because of the attitudes of that board, that I could go to them, you know, 2 days ago with a proposal saying, we know that we may have to lend money in order that we can get through this situation. It would be better for us if our net current liabilities were smaller. Therefore, what I'm proposing is you write off the 10 grand that we owe you so that we can lend it from somebody else and actually turn that into cash for us, so that we can have the impact that we know that we can have. And they were like, absolutely, like completely. I mean, they're always quick to respond, and they're always very generous and socially minded people anyway. So it was an easy conversation to have. But I think that's action to the kind of thing that you're suggesting, because that will allow us now to, so in the traditional sense that you can't get away from, our balance sheet looks better. And you know, and hopefully we can present that as an opportunity to somebody who can support us to support our community. And that's the thing about, you know, we're trading because we're a business, but you know, our social commitment is the thing that drives us forward. Yeah, go on.
So that makes me think that you know, like, I think Steve Morgan and a couple of others have done some amazing stuff over the last week, 2 weeks. You know, as you said, Sally, they're just getting money into that system. But perhaps some of the less charitable organisations who sit on a lot of money would be willing to contribute cash flow. And that's not about saying we're never going to give you that money back. It's saying actually allow that cash to enable this system to work. Because what I do see is an awful lot of people drawing in and cutting down. And all that does is fracture more things. I don't know how to make that ask or who we make that ask through, but I do think we've got some wealthy organisations, just not just people in the city who have reserves.
I tried to do something similar with the club. So on the day of the Madrid game, I was very clear that the football was going to end after that game, that it wasn't going to happen. So the day after the Madrid game, I actually contacted LFC and said, will you pay our contract for next year? Homebake supplied them with 700 pies. It's £1,300 a game. Will you pay us that money now for next year's contract? Because we can manage it next year. We can't manage it now. And the heads exploded. They genuinely tried to do something, but the heads exploded. And I was like, you've got plenty of money. We've got next to nothing. That could have been the difference between us remaining and not remaining. Yeah. And I do think housing associations, universities, those big anchor institutions could do something to do that in terms of prepay stuff, because they've got money.
Yeah.
Lots of organisations haven't.
And in the previous session, Katie from Form was saying that that's exactly the kind of tangible action that businesses can be taking right now, is to be contacting instead of having contracts cancelled under legitimate force majeure terms, go to, build those relationships with your suppliers and your service buyers and have those kinds of conversations with them. You'll get no's, but you may also get yeses, and you may also get to say things like, let's continue to do the work and let's have a promise to pay down the line. It's some of the approaches that we're taking with our residents is that, we know that you're going to get support from the government in June. So let's just do what we can until then. Absolutely. We also operate a workspace exchange where they can do services that they need. But obviously the big caveat is that we still have to have cash run through the business for it to exist. And that's always the challenge. I would recommend anybody who's listening to check out Form Leadership's YouTube channel and listen to some of the advice that Katie and the folks at Form have been saying. It's really, really tangible, actionable things. And yeah, people should commit time to looking at that. Erica, you raised your hand?
Yeah, I was thinking it's almost like the opposite of prepay meters, isn't it? So, less well-off people for a long time have had to pay in advance for a lot of things. And perhaps it's about an ask that says that some of the more well-off people pay in advance for some of the everyday economy things that cannot be shut down at the moment and are essentially needed. And I think we should look for examples of where people are doing that, because it's often by using an example, it encourages the next person and the next person to do it. But perhaps the utility companies might be a really nice place to start, just because I'm into revenge.
Great. In the questions, Lee, there's one here from Ronnie that says, how have your thoughts developed around the use of technologies, particularly for the psychotherapy stuff, about how spaces work? So being able to comply with social distancing requirements within one space, but using things like headphones and all that sort of stuff to create that sense of being in there, but far enough away that we're still complying.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Ronnie. Still working it out, to be honest. I guess in the service that we do, there's the sort of psychotherapy is like really intense. It's kind of like a medical practitioner doing like a one-to-one session. So that's a little bit easier, because that's just a one-to-one. I guess that's more like a Zoom. But the kind of, let's say, the less intense like group therapy sessions, yeah, I'm not sure how to do it. I'm still trying to work that out, how we can recreate that space. But yeah, good headphones and stuff like that, I could see the value in that. Yeah, working it out. honestly don't know. It keeps failing for us, like it does for a lot of people. We're all working out Zoom, aren't we, with the private rooms and the chats? But it's yeah. Any ideas? I'd like to hear them, but we're just kind of making it up as we go along.
We were anyway, Lee. We've all just been exposed. That's the difference now. Sally Ann, do you have anything that you want to add at this point?
No, I just think it's really valuable to keep having these conversations and think about things in a different way, and leverage. We're much more powerful as a group than we are as individuals.
Yeah, that's definitely been our message to our community. It make, you know, our stated ambition is to have as few people as possible have to hand their notice in because of circumstance, and we'll think of all kinds of flexible ways of dealing with that. You know, even down to if somebody needed to have a month where they knew that they could pay their rent in a year, you know, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes, and that does put us at risk. And I'm sure that lots of organisations are going to have to think in exactly the same way. But our ambition now is to leverage as much support directly to us, so that we can help our community and funnel that out. And I think that you are right, Erica. You know, although we're yet to receive any of the financial support, we do expect to be eligible for it. So, and a big part of that has been the relationships that we've developed with the local authority and so on, to be able to help. So, you know, I would hope that others would be able to replicate the steps that we're taking. And you know, when we surveyed our tenants and we asked the question really simply, how important do you think that community is, you know, in this situation, despite the fact that we can't literally just get together face to face, and you know, 95% of the respondents gave the maximum answer to that, you know, of the highest importance, even though a number of those tenants can basically do all of their work at home. They still feel a need to be a part of a community. And I think that that's right. There's power in union. And the one thing that I said in the other call the other week, Erica, was about, for me, the most amazing thing that I've seen is the power of literal unions, you know, absolutely screwing down massive organizations and getting them to yield to the pressure of doing things right. And hopefully people will join unions following this, you know, now knowing how important that they are. Okay, so do you want to all make some closing comments and statements, and then we'll tie it all up? Can I start with you, Lee?
Sure. I think someone said they're a glass. I think it was Paul Corcoran. You know, he's the glass half full, and I guess I'm like that. Obviously, there's loads of crap happening, but I think, you know, just the people on this call now, if you're in the social sort of economy, you're probably very innovative, and you're very creative, and you've worked out lots of hacks and ways to get stuff which people told you can't get. And I think the biggest opportunity for people like us at the moment is it's actually quite easier to get one of these video calls with anyone in your sector, or people you want to talk to who you'd never dream of reaching out to say, should we have a Zoom? I want to talk to you about what we're doing in response to COVID, or I want to partner with you for something. Chances are they'll take the call. There's much more chance of them taking a call at the moment when they're probably stuck at home with some kids and a partner that they don't really like because they didn't realize they had to spend so much time with them. So I'm having some great conversations with people, and the people who take the call, they're the other smart, switched on people as well. So I think use your time to have as many conversations with people that you want to work with, or people who you think are switched on, and just grow your relationship and build the trust. And I think something will come out of it. Thanks.
Wise words, Lee. Thank you very much. I agree with you. I've had more conversations with some of the people that I've been trying to get hold of for a while than I have before. So yeah, and I hadn't even really thought that was what was happening, but I think you're right there. Really well observed. Sally Ann?
I'm a bit like Lee and Paul. I'm glass half full, and I think the times are tough. It's really hard, but you can see the green shoots of a different way of working and a different way of our economy working. And I think the big thing for me is not losing sight of that end game. So we're all dug in there trying to keep going, but we know that what we do is so important that it has to remain, and it has to be bigger when we get out at the end of this. So don't lose sight of what we can do when, and how much more impact we can have when we get out the other side.
Amazing, great, thank you very much. And Erica, can you as well, but can you also mention about Kindred as well?
Yeah, so okay, so first I'll do that. So Kindred is there to help those people who are trading with social purpose but want to be commercially viable, or are commercially viable, or maybe were commercially viable until 5 minutes ago. So not for your traditional charities and that kind of thing. There's lots of help around for them, and we can direct you to that if that's what you're after. But for those people who are trading commercially with social purpose, Kindred is there to support you through this, and we'll do our very best. We can't solve the world, and we ain't got no magic solutions. If you want to get in touch with us, it's info@creativeeconomist.co.uk, and we'll then either talk to you by email or by phone, and ideally get you into a group chat as quickly as we can. In terms of closing comments, am I glass half full or glass half empty? Well, I've got a double gin and tonic with a little umbrella in and a sparkler, because I'm an irrepressible opportunist and optimist. Nauseatingly so for some people, I think, so my apologies to those who find it irritating. But I suppose politicians often want to talk, and have talked just over the last 12 months, about privatisation and nationalisation, and Liam's heard me talk before about localisation and socialisation. And I think there are a lot of people at home now who aren't spending a lot of money, even if they're only on 80%, but they're still shopping on Amazon, and they've still got cash in their bank accounts. And if any of those are on this call, or you know any of them, I think there is a real opportunity to ask those people to invest in the smalls and the locals. And just like any upturn or downturn in the market, there are opportunities. And some of those good news stories we talked about, those Stephen the plumber and Peloton and Home Baked, are good investments right now, because they're fast and they're nimble and they're quick. And if you want to know how to invest in those things, then Kindred is really interested in hearing from those people, not to take that investment, but to act as a signaller to where that money could make a real difference to keeping somebody afloat over the next 6 months, but can be done in a way where we underwrite your risk and make sure that that's done in a safe and responsible way. So I would say invest in the locals.
Great, thank you very much. All right, thank you for your time, panelists, and thank you to all of the attendees.